Right, we've done the first look at Olorun, we've done the patch notes live viewing, and we've done gameplay with Olorun at this point. But one thing's missing today, and that's the written updates notes. So this is the part where we have more time to talk about balance in depth. I'm actually gonna cut some things a little bit shorter here. I'm gonna just kind of skim over the skins and just show them in the small pictures. If you want to see the bigger ones, just look at them on the patch notes. I don't think that's the main point. Or look at them on the live viewing where you can actually see the skins in game. We have Olorun, how he's pronounced in game, up first. And there's a lot to unpack with this guy still. So the passive is Touch of Fate. Upon reaching 150 magical power from items, Olorun gains 15% critical hit chance and a further 1% per 10 magical power from items. Olorun's critical deals only 50% increased damage. Additionally, Olorun gains 5% extra scaling on his basic attacks. So, up to 70% crit chance, which is crazy high, but it only starts once you hit 150 crit chance, so you don't have a crit chance at the start of the game. Very understandable. So you get this once you have Bancrofts and Boots, for example. And getting to the max power to get the 70% crit is a bit unlikely in my opinion, because you're probably going to invest into some attack speed as well, because he's still a mage ADC. And at the same time, the crits only deal 50% increased damage, so they're not that overwhelming in that regard either. But we get to his one, which can also crit. And the 5% extra scaling is also interesting, because it just means that he benefits even more from building power that way. And is, yeah, a very, very power-focused mage overall. There's two stats that he really wants, power and attack speed. Then his first ability, Focus Light. Olorun charges an orb of pure energy for up to 2 seconds before firing it in front of him. The longer he charges, the farther the projectile goes, passing through and damaging enemy minions, but stopping on colliding with enemy guards. This ability can critically hit and provide stacks of Overflowing Divinity, which is the 2, we'll get to that. So the damage here is 100 to 260, not that high for a mage ability, plus 55% of your magical power, also not that high. But again, keep in mind, this can crit, and then the damage ramps up significantly. The cost is 50 to 90 mana, average, cooldown 12 seconds, relatively short, and it's a relatively long range ability when it's fully charged. It does feel a little bit weird that it doesn't change in damage when the range increases. Something to get used to. You have to get the feeling for that you can throw it out immediately and does the exact same damage at super long range when the enemy is close to you. But you have to just learn that. And at the same time, throwing it out has to happen at some point. Like, you can't cancel it because it'll throw out in max range either way. So that's also worth keeping in mind. And his second ability ties in with the first one, and that's Overflowing Divinity. Olorun gains amplified attack speed. Every successful basic attack on an enemy during the buff provides his inner sun with energy, a cap of up to 20 stacks. During the buff or for 4 seconds after, Olorun can refire this ability to conjure the sun to damage enemies in the area. The sun emits projectiles faster and more randomly with higher ammo. Hitting the same enemy deals 10% less damage each time, up to a minimum of 80% reduction. So here we have damage of 30 to 70 per sun projectile plus 10% scaling. So with that lowering with every hit, it's not going to be all too crazy in terms of scaling. Like, I don't think you will ever reach really 100% scaling with it, unless, I'm not even sure if it's technically possible. I don't think it is. But even if it is, you will not get there unless the enemy is like completely locked down. Attack speed increase of 40%, very, very high increase here. And that's what I think it's primarily used for. Duration 4 to 6 seconds, cost of 60 to 80, and a cooldown of 14 seconds. Now with this ability, I gotta say, it felt very underwhelming aside of the attack speed increase. Of course, the attack speed there is nice, but trying to really make effective use of this ability will definitely take some time, definitely take some practice. I was playing on an A-Ping, so maybe not the most accurate statement here in regards to how it's actually going to play, but it has a bit of delay, and you have to use it first, stack it first, use the mana first, and then when that's done, you can kind of, well, hope that it hits, because the area for it is very, very small, and normally, like, unless it's super fully stacked, it's really centered on a small point. And enemies can juke it super easily. They can just walk out of it and get away with it half of the time. Because the enemy is typically not slowed either, Olorun doesn't really have setup in that regard that would allow him to hit it better. Unless you use a 3, but that's a risky call. And yeah. Cooldown is also relatively long considering that you have to sometimes use it multiple times to stack it, especially in the early stages. And the 1 can be body blocked by the enemy, meaning they can prevent you from stacking it on the wave as well. For, well, taking a fair bit of damage, but not a crazy amount of damage. So, hard trade-off here for the relatively good attack speed steroid, I would say. Which I personally don't like that much. I don't like how the ability feels so far. Many people have said it's because we have to balance out the fact that he's a mage ADC, but then other mage ADCs also have decent damaging abilities like Sol does, Kronos does. It's not that that's not possible. And this ability is one of those that I would call it has Merlin syndrome, where when an enemy is locked down, they will take a stupid amount of damage from this. Because then it's super easy to confirm all of them. If in a taunt or something, then it's super strong, but when an enemy is not locked down, it will have very low impact. And this is a theme you will see with Olorun throughout his entire kit. He is super, super focused on playing with his team. And that's something I couldn't really test yet, so yeah, that will definitely change his impact drastically. And that continues with a 3, Consecration. Olorun expends the light within himself, knocking back and damaging nearby enemies as well as slowing them for 2 seconds. There's your slow and your knockback. Allies based in the light gain a heal over time that ticks every second for 5 seconds. For every ally healed, Olorun gains physical and magic protections. So, 60 to 140 damage, 20% scaling. So this is not about damage at all. The healing here is 10 to 30 plus 5% per tick. I think it's ticking for 2 seconds. No, for 5 seconds and heal every second. So the overall value here is 150 if it's not 6 stacks. So yeah, 25% scaling. Not bad, but also not super crazy. Like, especially in the early stages, it's not going to heal for a super high amount, and you're not going to max this as well, so yeah, a bit of decent utility. The more interesting part, the protections. 8 to 16 per guard healed. So if you have 2 allies around, this can be 32 protections at max rank, which for a mage is very nice to have. 20% slow, not very strong, but the knockback is the more important CC part. 60 to 80 mana, 14 seconds cooldown. So that's your only safety net, and it's not a very safe safety net, I gotta say. It's nice, and it's a nice setup as well, and it works very nice as a setup in his ult especially, but that's all it is. It's not the super impactful ability, but it doesn't have to be. It's a little helper for a god that should not have a full-on escape. And then we have Sanctified Field. Oh, we can look at this nice picture at the same time. Olorun brings forth. I'm just not gonna read it. It doesn't matter. It's an AOE field that slows everything. It slows attacking, animations, everything from the enemies. It doesn't slow allies, and it speeds up Olorun. So enemies are slowed by 40%, and Olorun is sped up by 30%. The duration of the ability is 5 seconds. The cost is 100 mana. Cooldown starts at 140 and goes down to 100. And I gotta say, I think this is very impactful. I think this is a strong ability for team fights. And it's a very good ability to set up its own combo as well when you can go in aggressive. But as a safety ability to get away from enemies, it is a lot less impactful than I initially expected. So, yeah. I would say Olorun is definitely a late game god. He's very focused on high power, on high attack speed ideally as well. You want to have some attack speed in there, maybe Demonic Grip, Telekine, something like that. And he's going to have a rough time when he gets ganked by the wrong people. Of course, his knockback can be good. It's kind of like maybe Aphrodite a little bit. So against certain guards, can be very nice, but then the cooldown is also too long, and they can't really invest into cooldowns that much in order to use it like frequently. Like, it's a one-time thing, and if you're not safe after that, you're done for. So when you play Olorun, expect to get ganked a lot in early game. Like, a lot. You really have to I think you really have to hang out with a support to make full use of this character, which means that in the current meta, he's got a bit of a problem because the support isn't in duo as much. He's not the kind of god that, you know, would solo farm a lot in duo like a Jing Wei does, for example, at the moment. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out for him. But yeah, outside of that, we have a few skins. We can quickly play the voice lines here as well. Tiger's Free Achilles has this tiger form, but then the other form of him is actually a human form, which is kind of interesting, which has like the tiger markings. And we're going to play the voice lines after I show the skins here quick. We have Daji, Death Lotus, Ninja style skin. We have Biohacker Kali. Very cool animations. Looks better in game than in this card art. Biohacker Chernobog. Not a fan of that one. Clockwork Discordia. Very, very cool. Mothman and Musen Cup. Super, super cool. Vigilante Susano. Super edgy but cool. Olorun, of course. And Plushie Ermengander, who's absolutely fantastic. Check that guy out in the live viewing because he's cool. He's got dead plushy minions around him at all times. All right, might have to turn on your volume a little bit because this might be loud. These are the voice lines.
Yes, soon the air will be thick with the smell of sweet blood.
I don't know what it is. I just can't seem to stay out of trouble. Shh, don't tell the other shinobi.
Gaze upon my form and welcome the next step of evolution.
Oh, by the way, that skin has butterfly wings in the ultimate.
It's only natural you feel a cold sweat drip down your back. You are in the presence of a superior species.
Thanks for bringing me on this adventure. I promise I won't let you guys down. I have gadgets for any situation.
Now what's a poor thing like you doing in my neck of the woods?
Oh god, I love the voice lines.
The streets are never safe these days. Someone's got to protect it.
I have come to pacify the evil and bring light from the darkness.
His voice pick is also beautiful.
Do not be scared. I am a great big softie.
All right. We can also see the Achilles skins. The Daji skins are in the Battle for Olympus 5, and then you have the new Biohacker chest, and then we have Discordia and Mothman in the Battle for Olympus 6. So a lot of good skins in the Battle for Olympus thing again, which annoys me. I don't want to buy it. Too many. And Susano in the Vigilante chest, and Jormungandr in the Plushies friend chest. The update release schedule. We're gonna get Olorun and Battle for Olympus 5. And the Rightful Air chest, yeah, that works towards the Horus skin, which should also be here, actually. I don't know why it's not shown, which is also pretty cool, but again, you can see that on the patch notes as well. And the Plushie Friends chest comes on the 28th of June. Then next week we have Biohacker chest, then we have Battle of Olympus 6 with the Rightful Air chest, and then we have the Vigilante chest in the 3rd week of July. Bug fixes, various ones. We're just gonna scroll through them because we have a lot to go through. Nothing too major as far as I know, except for one god that we'll get to. But we'll see that. Yeah, this is just this minor stuff. We can quickly go through this UI stuff here. Fixed players not being notified when a booster is activated. I don't know why that's a thing. Nice, it's back. Fix an issue where ranked lobby borders from God Leader will not display for console ranked use. Fix an issue in the store where localized clients could not search for items in English. Fix in custom input VGS menu causing the keyboard scene to persist. Fixed new Clash red camps stating that the blue camps are the map guides. Remove the buff duration timer for speed elixir. Nice. So we had speed of elixir. It's not elixir of speed, but hey. A fixed rank split menu not displaying progress towards quest win 15 or 50 games. And then some console and spectator fixes. Some mixer point fixes. Some negative space on Regal HUD. Okay. Well, I don't even have that HUD, I think. But yeah. And some other resolution fixes here. Project Olympus. There's an interesting thing now here that you can see. There's always this Project Olympus logo when the Olympians did something, when they contributed to something. And I'm just going to read this out. Toward the end of the year, we made a decision to shift more of our attention into raising the bar on our skin deliveries. We wanted to push ourselves even harder to create amazing content that we know our players love. This included more special animations and tackling ambitious concepts that we previously would have thought were impossible. Part of the decision included a shift in resources, which meant that we would no longer be supporting the end of the match lobby animations like you were accustomed to, or creating new card art for our color change skins. And I honestly don't mind either of those. If the in-game animations are better for that, I really don't care. Like that's, I don't know why some of you guys are so focused on lobby animations. Like, are you really gonna sit there in lobby and watch this animation more than once? You're gonna watch it once and be like, oh yeah, it's cool, and then it's gonna be like, oh yeah, it's the animation from last time I played this god. Instead of having these animations that you constantly see in game being more fluid and having the resources towards that. But well, people were complaining enough, so Horus decided that they are going to change that, and they're even going back to some other gods and changing up the card arts and animations. Here you go. I hope you're happy now. Lobby communication and console. Very nice one, this one. Console players will now be able to access a unique set of text-only VGS commands in the console lobby to communicate with each other. They can also access a custom message through this VGS menu in the same way console players can chat without each other in-game with each other. But this is like something like you can say, we have 4 mages in a VGS command now. Like, we have too many mages, something that's just really cool. Social friends list now has a decline all button on the request section. Thank you so much. So, also, all pending friend requests will be wiped when the Rule of Heavens update goes live. So I should check through mine, I guess. Vivox voice communication is now supported on Nintendo Switch. Matchmaking. Also, huge change to crossplay here. Significant changes have been made to the matchmaker in relation to the crossplay matchmaking. Players will now be much more likely to only match with players to their own input type, unless you're queuing in a crossplay party or a significantly low population region game mode. So for me, it doesn't really matter because I'm a low pop area. But crossplay parties will match with the input type that the majority of the party is using. If the keyboard and mouse versus gamepad players is tied, then they go to keyboard and mouse games. So, yeah. Console will play more with console, or controller will play more with controller, and keyboard and mouse will play more with keyboard and mouse, which I think is fair. And the fact that you can also still get both together when necessary means it's a good design overall, in my opinion. And the home screen is cleaned up a little bit, which I already saw in game, which is a lot nicer, especially on PC at least. Gods. Naja got a big overhaul, and this one I actually want to read out because there's some very interesting changes. He's like just getting fixed this patch basically. Universe ring toss fixed an issue where the ring would not bounce to and from certain targets. It should fix cases where Loki decoy would absorb the ring. Flaming spear fixed an issue where sometimes Naja would fire an extra basic attack animation used on based on using the flaming spear. And this is the really big one. Amelia's Sash. This ability now applies a stun with no diminishing returns. This means that it should always last the same amount of time, fixing situations where Naja could use Amelia's Sash and the target could move out of the way before he reaches the location. This is consistent with specific other stun effects that have scripted animation, like, for example, Sobek's Charge Prey. Fix an issue where this ability on using this ability on guards who were in the process of being knocked up would also cause Naja to be in the air upon reaching the target. That actually looked kind of funny, so I don't know, but yeah. Now it lands on the ground. And fix an issue where the area of effect of this ability will sometimes miss targets that are in the air, but within the area. Fix an issue where quickly turning the camera while using this ability would cause the hit area and the FX to be desynced, leading to situations where the players does not look like they should hit an enemy, but they do. So at the same time, they were also able to fix the Ra ultimate, the Searing Pain, with the same thing. So this like ghost snipes will no longer happen. So that's a cool one. And added new effects to this ability to clearly portray the area of effect of damage when Naja is reaching a target. And then the ultimate, Windfire Wields, adjusted the bounding area of the UI elements in this ability so that they will no longer have the chance to be hidden behind Naja's passive meter UI. Fixed an issue when Naja was able to slide past an enemy instead of correctly latching onto them. Fixed an issue when this FX for this ability where the last few feet of the targeter were raised in a slope. Lots of stuff. Should be a lot better overall. And Scylla gets new icon out as well. And now we finally get to the items, and there's some interesting ones. So Odysseus' bow gets his base damage decreased from 30 to 15. Base damage, not the scaling. It's just funny to me because Odysseus' bow was buffed in its scaling, I think, by 10% back a while back, and there was no reason to, and now it's suddenly popular when it was already super good before. Odysseus' bow has always been super DPS efficient as an item and super good in team fights. There you go, now it's getting a nerf. In Charge Bow 2, base damage here is also decreased from 20 to 15. So you're going to have a little bit less of an impact with Odysseus Bow early on. But I think the main damage here will come from the scaling at a certain point of the game anyway. So it doesn't matter all too much. It's still a great item. Don't worry. And now for my favorite change to this patch. Malice. Decreased cost from 3000 to 2650. Increased cooldown reduction from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. I think this is absolutely massive. Compare this to, say, like other items around the area of 2400 gold. It's not going to compete with them directly. Like if you want to build Jones on the character, you're probably still going to build Jones before this because it gives you some pen, it gives you the same amount of power, 40 power, and it gives you the CR right off the bat. But when you have Jones already, I think this is a great item because like you have items in that price range that were still very much like something you can take into consideration, right? You have, for example, like Stonecutting Sword at 2,500 gold. This is 150 gold more. This is not going to kill you. So this is great, in my opinion, to make Malice more accessible because I always thought it has a very interesting unique passive. And I think this might be a very strong item now. You have, for example, Sir Cat that can make great use of it. I'm going to have to drink some water in between. Or you have Naja. Or you have Set now, who I think can really make use of it at this point in a more aggressive build, that is. I can see Malice really making a comeback with this. Willish as well. There's so many gods where I'd be like, yeah, try it out. Give it a shot. I think this could be great. I really want to see what's happening with this item, and I think this could be scary. Doom Up gets a price decrease from 3,200 to 3,000. Somebody on Reddit is going to be very happy. I think the price decrease is fair though, because the stats of Doom Orb, of Cursed Orb, are actually pretty good, right? And then you have the upgrade to Doom Orb, and it actually doesn't get you that much more. It gives you a lot more power, but that's about it. It doesn't change the passive or anything outside of giving you more power, and that's kind of unusual. Most items, get their strength to their fullest potential at the highest rank. So decreasing the price of Doom Orb here a little bit is absolutely fair, and it's still a super expensive item that most people probably won't pick up anyways. Or if Asclepius. Updated description to better convey this item only affects healing abilities. The functionality of this item has not been changed, so no HP 5 and stuff. Gem of Isolation. So this one was one the Olympians brought in. It's been very strong on certain characters for a very long time. And especially with Merlin, this has become a huge issue. Decreased movement speed, slow from 25% to 20%. That's just a little bit. But decreased movement speed, slow duration from 2 seconds to 1 second. Just sliced in half. That means that non-ticking guards really have no business building this anymore, I think. For ticking guards, this has an impact. This affects Merlin, this affects Poseidon, this affects Jonqui. The question is, who does it affect the most? And I feel like it affects Poseidon especially, but also Jonqui probably more than it affects Merlin. Because Merlin got such long-lasting abilities anyways, and especially in his fire stance, he is going to slow you. So, I don't know. I don't know if I think this is the right approach. I personally would have rather seen targeted nerfs towards Merlin instead of this. But each to their own. It's one way or another to get Merlin nerfed, so that's okay with me. And most guards don't build Gem of Isolation, so it's kind of not too much of a loss in that regard. But along with these nerfs, we also have other nerfs. The first one is not a nerf though, that's Achilles. That's a buff. So Achilles just got a nerf to all his damage output, and now he gets a buff to his protections. Gift of the Gods protections per level increased from 1.5 to 2. Still a little bit. It's not crazy. It's 10 protections at level 20, but it's not bad either. But then the more interesting part, Shield of Achilles. Increased fall-off damage from 70% to 85%. I don't understand it. I don't know why. So it's going to make it much easier to clear. It's going to make it much easier to pressure enemies, because if they run from you and try to actively duke your stun, then they will still take a decent amount of damage. And it's so easy to confirm. It's going to be so much damage now. So taking away some of his damage before is now completely reverted. I think he's got more damage out of this than he got before. I think this is more, almost more impactful than the basic attack range, because Yeah, I know people think you box in solo and you run into them, blah, 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 but that's such a hypothetical that doesn't really happen all that much, whereas Shield of Achilles is an ability you use in every wave all the time. You spam that, and it's gonna have an impact. And I don't know where they're going with this. I feel like it's gonna get another nerf after this, but we'll see. And then we have Kuang. Kuang overperforming in ranked, I think, primarily. He's not really a SPL god, but yeah, it even mentions here ranked powerhouse. And what we have here is his basic attack. I just had a wrong text basically. It's a full 1 second swing. It says the shot of pre-fire. And Dragon Call had the slow on the range attack decreased from 30 to 20%. Now that I think is the minor part, because usually that's just the ability you use to get someone below threshold anyways and catch up to them. So yeah, it doesn't have an impact, but it's not crazy. But while Storm has its cooldown changed, I think for the 4th time or something, I don't know how often it's been changed. It feels like it's been changed so many times over and over. From 7 seconds to 9 seconds. And that is definitely going to be impactful. Not only for clearing, but also for fighting and for re-engaging in any situation. 2 seconds on such a low cooldown ability is a lot. So Aokang's gonna feel that one. And yeah, I guess that's like one of the few changes that we have seen that was just way more targeted for ranked than for competitive. Then we have Athena. Athena is getting a buff along with some other Guardians who have been performing rather poorly in this season or have not been showing up in competitive or whatever. And yeah, in her case, the shield wall gets a tweak. The damage doesn't change at all, but the initial damage is increased from 60 to 200 to 70 to 230, and then the secondary damage is decreased from 80 to 360 to 70 to 330. So it's just a damage shift. So you get a little bit more out of the first part and a little bit less out of the second part, but still more of the second part than out of the first part. It also means that if you use a 3 on a minion wave and the minions keep like walk out of it, then you get a little bit more damage in that moment. So I think it's good, and it's a nice change that doesn't really heavily change her. Also, preemptive strike slow duration increased from 1.25 to 2.25 to 2.25 at all ranks. That I think is very impactful, because that means, especially in the earlier stages, her CC is going to be decently better. And I think that's interesting. I still don't think Athena is a meta support right now, and I think that's what's holding her back way more. But I like these changes, and especially for non-competitive, I think this is going to make her a lot more enjoyable. Cerberus gets some changes as well. Also not really a big boy in Conquest right now, even though he's been one for a while. Soul Explosion decreased the health of the souls from 95 to 235 to 60 to 220, so a lot easier to get those, especially in early ranks, and increased the heal per god from 30 to 110 to 40 to 140. A little bit here, a little bit there. Definitely nice tweaks for him to just make a little bit of use of that ability overall. And then Stitch and Torment decreased the cooldown from 115 to 95 to 100 seconds at all ranks. Definitely a buff, of course. So I'm not even sure if it's worth leveling anymore at this point with that being changed until you have everything else leveled, as it's primarily used as a CC, really. Yeah, but that makes life easier for Cerberus, especially in early ranks there. Kakuhen gets a little bit of a buff. He had some fixes very recently, but his performance is not really that great yet, so the Olympians asked for another buff. And this is just a little bit of an increase to the scaling of Barbed Spear, because his early game is strong enough, but he should have a little bit more in late game, and that's just from 45 to 55%, so nothing crazy. Wait, it says Barbed Spear and Ground Stamp, so I guess both are buffed here, actually. A little bit more impact than it sounds here, then. It's a 20% scaling, basically, but yeah. It's not going to be out of control, but it's a nice quality of damage. Let's call it that. And then we have Freya, just a fix that she doesn't heal for more than intended anymore. And Harbois is getting his nerfs. Look at that. Water Cannon, decreased damage from 70 to 290 to 70 to 270. Interesting enough. And Atlas of the Yellow River, decreased movement speed slow from 30 to 50% to 25 to 45%. I think these changes are going to hit Harbois, but I think in the current meta, that's actually okay. I think there's no problem with nerfing Hobart just a little bit right now. Mages in general are doing quite well for themselves, and he's still going to be okay. So, yeah. It's just the base damage as well. It's just an early game thing. The scaling is not affected, and yeah. Seeing that he's performing on the highest level of play right now, you can have that. Horus. Horus gets a little bit of a change. Nothing too crazy, but he gets the cooldown of Updraft decreased from 18 to 14 to 16 to 14 seconds. That's it. That means a little bit more early clear, a little more early pressure. And I still think that Horus is actually a great guard in many situations, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. I think Horus is one of those guards, like, once he actually gets pulled out, once gets used properly, he's going to have a huge impact. But until then, we'll probably see some more changes. Jormungandr, Consuming Bellow. Decreased bonus damage from 20 to 60 to 20 to 40. This is primarily to nerf him as a damaging guard, as a mage, Jormungandr essentially. But I'm not sure if it's reading the right spot, because the mage Jormungandrs primarily rely on the ultimate for their damage, and everything else that follows afterwards is, what follows. But there are many situations where you can't even utilize the bonus damage fully, and you will just work more with just the raw damage of your abilities and what Soul Reaver does with them, and just the range of the one, easy poke with the one, more than the Consuming Bellow bonus damage. So I'm not sure if this is targeting the right angle here, but we'll have to see. Capri gets a lot of changes, actually. Rising Dawn increased the damage per tick from 10 to 22 to 10 to 26. It also, at the same time, Solar Freya decreased the cooldown from 16 to 14 seconds. And also, Scar's Blessing updated the ability to say that doesn't revive executes, but that's just information. So 2 buffs here that I think will help with clearing a little bit, pressure a little bit, and also with the CC a little bit. And I think the cooldown reduction, especially on Solar Flare, is absolutely fair. I think that cooldown was oddly long for what the ability is. I like it. And Set, I'm going to read this one out because people are going to discuss over it. Set is similar to Horus, underperforming in key aspects with a community concern on them being overbuffed. For Set, we feel his damage and mobility are appropriate when players have invested the time into learning his mechanics. We are increasing the focus on his passive, I guess, and ultimate, ensuring players have a smooth experience with both. Relentless is difficult to maintain even during active fight, whilst ultimate locked him out of abilities for a significant amount of time, more than his animation conveyed. These combinations can feel restrictive and limiting when Set is all about unleashing his rage. These changes should better represent this feeling and make his gameplay smoother. Relentless increased duration from 4 to 5 seconds, so that's the passive here, so you get the attack speed for a little bit longer. It's nice, and it's useful, and it makes sense, but I don't think it's going to be super impactful. And the more important part here is Kingslayer. Decreased pre-fire time from 0.8 seconds to 0.33 seconds. Thank you, Ponpon. If it was you who hurt me. Ponpon responded to me about this, but maybe it was already planned before. Either way, I love that this change came through, because I felt that waiting for Kingslayer to animate before you can engage, or using it in a fight, felt super clunky. I still see a lot of problems with Set, and I think those problems are going to be more emphasized now that Malice is getting this buff, because I think he's still very, very snowbally. He's very much focused on being snowbally, and he's not really consistent still, and I think that's the issue. So I would still wish that they would kind of rework how the ult and the 3 work together, and give some more to his 2, but I guess I'll be wishing for a long time. And then we have Ymir. Ymir has his cooldown for Frost Breath reduced from 18 seconds to 16 seconds. A little bit of a buff for a guy that I haven't seen in a long time. Absolutely fair. Let's see what it does for him. Might not actually change all too much, to be honest, because it's not really his meta either so far. But we'll see. And yeah, that's it. That's just a note that this is our Olympian changes. And now my voice is dying. And I'm going to bed. If you haven't watched the gameplay or the first look or the live viewing yet, you can do all that. There's probably a link here somewhere. And other than that, I will see you for the next one. At this point, I can say tomorrow. If you're new to the channel, feel free to click the sub button and maybe the bell. It helps me out. DukeSloth, out.